David Carter was a distinguished yet humble black man with an air of sophistication. At 45, he was the proud owner of Carter's Luxe, a globally renowned high-end fashion brand celebrated not just for its luxury, but for its commitment to sustainability. Despite his remarkable success, David never forgot his modest roots. He had grown up in a poor neighborhood in Atlanta, where he faced prejudice and hardship from an early age. His family lived in a rundown house, with his mother working as a housekeeper and his father as a mechanic. Even as a child, David dreamed of changing his life. He juggled school and part-time jobs, selling goods on the streets and teaching himself about fashion through old magazines he scavenged. Carter's Luxe was not only a testament to David's perseverance and ambition, but also a symbol of his belief in people. He firmly believed that fashion was not just for the elite, but a means for everyone to express their individuality and confidence. One morning, David sat in his expansive office, gazing out the window and reflecting on recent customer feedback. While many of his stores received glowing reviews, some locations had been criticized for unprofessional service and even incidents of discrimination. The reports troubled him deeply. How could my brand, built on a foundation of love and respect, allow such issues to occur? David wondered. Determined to address the problem, he decided to investigate firsthand, not through reports, but by experiencing it himself. David decided to disguise himself as an ordinary man to visit his stores. This wasn't the first time he had done something like this. In the past, David had used such methods to check product quality. But this time, his focus was on the customer service experience. He planned meticulously. David chose a simple outfit, an old t-shirt, faded jeans, and a pair of inexpensive sneakers, to further obscure his recognizable face. Often seen in business magazines, he added a baseball cap. David didn't just alter his appearance. He prepared a new demeanor as well. He decided to take on the persona of a middle-aged laborer with little knowledge of fashion, but who wanted to buy something suitable for a party. Looking at himself in the mirror, David chuckled. If they didn't know me, no one would believe I'm the owner of a luxury fashion chain. He mused. To ensure objectivity, David chose to visit one of the stores that had received the most negative feedback. This particular store was located in a bustling shopping mall, known for its diverse clientele but also infamous for its selective customer service. I need to see for myself what's really happening here, David told his assistant before heading out. If there's a problem, I want to witness it firsthand. The store David chose was located in the heart of the city, within a bustling area. It was a large, upscale store, designed with elegance and featuring glass display cases showcasing the latest fashion collections. As David stepped inside, he immediately sensed a cold, unwelcoming atmosphere. The employees, dressed in uniforms, stood in small clusters, chatting and laughing, seemingly indifferent to the customers browsing the store. David made his way to a display of premium coats. He leaned down, pretending to examine one, and immediately felt the scrutinizing gaze of a young salesman named Jack. Jack, a white man in his early 30s, dressed in a sharp suit, approached David with a smirk. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone clearly lacking warmth or friendliness. David looked up, maintaining a calm demeanor. "I'd like to take a look at this coat. It looks quite nice." Jack chuckled dryly. "Are you sure? This one isn't cheap." David smiled, keeping his composure. "I know. I'd like to try it on." Instead of assisting David, Jack crossed his arms, scanning him from head to toe with a condescending look. "People like you usually don't buy this kind of thing. We have some cheaper items in the corner over there. Might be more in your price range." David felt as though he had been slapped in the face. Yet, instead of letting anger take over, he decided to continue the test. "I want to try this one," he insisted firmly. Jack sighed dramatically, reluctantly taking the coat off the rack. He handed it to David with an air of disdain, as though he were doing a favor for an undeserving customer. As David tried on the coat, Jack couldn't resist another snide comment. You probably don't know this, but pieces like these are typically for people who understand fashion. I don't think it suits you. A few customers in the store turned to look. Some shook their heads in disapproval, but no one said a word. Nearby, a young woman named Emily, one of the sales associates, felt uneasy with Jack's behavior but remained silent, merely observing from a distance. David removed the coat and carefully placed it back on the rack. He met Jack's gaze directly, his expression calm but resolute. Without saying a word, he turned and walked out of the store. As the door closed behind him, David took a deep breath. He wasn't just disappointed by the way he had been treated. He was deeply troubled to realize that a small part of his staff might harbor such discriminatory attitudes and a blatant lack of respect for customers. This won't be the last time we meet, David thought to himself. After David left the store, the atmosphere inside returned to normal. Jack went back to his counter, showing no sign of remorse. To him, it was just another routine day at work. But not everyone remained silent about what had just happened. Emily, the young woman who had witnessed the entire incident, was deeply upset. As someone who believed in justice and equality, she couldn't stand Jack's attitude. "Excuse me." Emily approached Jack, her tone firm yet polite. "The way you treated that customer just now was completely inappropriate. Your job is to serve customers, not judge them." Jack shrugged and let out a dismissive laugh. "You don't get it. People like that never have the money to buy anything here. I was just saving time for both of us." Emily was stunned by Jack's audacity. "It's not your place to decide who deserves to be served here. If this brand builds its reputation on discrimination like that, then I want no part of it." A few other customers overheard the exchange. A middle-aged woman shook her head in disappointment and quietly walked out. Emily followed, feeling she needed to do something to bring this incident to light. Outside the store, David walked in silence, his heart heavy not only from the personal insult but from a deep disappointment in the system he had built. He wandered around the shopping center, questioning himself about how things had gone so wrong. He thought back to the early days of founding Carter's Luxe, when his vision wasn't just to sell clothes but to create a place where everyone was treated with respect and dignity. "Maybe I've become too detached from reality," David reflected. "I assumed everything was fine just because the revenue numbers were growing. But this attitude of service is a wake-up call." David sat down on a bench in a nearby park, pulled out his phone, and opened his email. The reports from his management team had never mentioned issues like this. He realized that sales figures and customer satisfaction surveys couldn't fully capture the truth. As he sat there, he quietly observed the people passing by. A man buying ice cream for his son, a group of young friends laughing together, and a couple holding hands. It pained him to think that any of them could experience the kind of unfair treatment he had just endured. David resolved that this wasn't just a personal issue. It was a systemic problem. He needed to take action. The next day, David returned to his office and called a meeting with his senior management team. In the spacious conference room with its oval table, the managers sat in a circle, unsure of the purpose of the meeting. When David entered, all eyes turned to him, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," David began, his voice steady and clear. "Yesterday, I visited one of our stores not as the CEO, but simply as a regular customer, and what I experienced left me profoundly disappointed." The room fell silent. A few managers exchanged uneasy glances. David continued, recounting in detail his experience, from Jack's behavior to the reactions of other customers in the store. He refrained from naming Jack directly but described the situation clearly enough for the managers to grasp the severity of the issue. "When I founded Carter's Luxe, I envisioned it as a brand not just about fashion, but about respect and inclusivity. It seems we've strayed from that vision." Sarah, the manager in charge of employee training, spoke up. "Mr. Carter, I'm deeply sorry to hear this. We've implemented training programs, but it seems they might not be sufficient." David nodded. You're right. Training is only one piece of the puzzle. I want us to reevaluate the entire process: hiring, training, and oversight. Every employee needs to understand that there is absolutely no place for discrimination in this company. He tasked the team with developing a detailed plan for reform and scheduled a follow-up meeting in a week to review their progress. While David focused on improving the system, the narrative shifted to Jack, who had inadvertently become the center of this crisis. Jack was born and raised in a wealthy family in an affluent neighborhood. His parents instilled in him the belief that money was everything and that those who were poor or from minority groups did not deserve equal treatment. These views took root in Jack's mind from a young age, shaping him into a person who was arrogant and judgmental. When Jack reached adulthood, his family faced financial troubles, forcing him to earn his own living. Despite his polished appearance and charming communication skills, Jack harbored resentment toward those he deemed beneath him. Carter's Lux. Jack excelled in selling to wealthy clients, earning him recognition. However, this very attitude made him biased, focusing only on customers he considered worthy. Deep down, Jack was not inherently a bad person. He carried insecurities and scars from his past, particularly the pain of losing all the privileges he once took for granted. It wasn't until he came face to face with David Carter that Jack began to realize the world didn't operate the way he had been taught. The flawed values instilled in him from childhood were slowly being challenged. David couldn't allow things to continue as they were without taking further action. After the meeting with his management team, he decided to continue his undercover visits to understand the issues in his stores more deeply. This time, he chose a store located in the suburbs, where the staff were less closely supervised. He picked a busy weekend, when the store was at its peak with customers. Disguised in simple clothing, David walked into the store with the demeanor of a customer looking for a special gift. Unlike the previous store, where Jack treated him with disdain, here he was greeted by a young employee named Mia, petite woman with a warm smile. Mia approached him immediately. "Hello, how can I help you today?" Mia asked, her tone cheerful and enthusiastic. David could sense the sincerity in her voice. He pretended to be uncertain about what he was looking for. "I'm searching for a gift, but I'm not quite sure what to get," he said. Without hesitation, Mia took the time to ask about the recipient's preferences, David's budget, and the occasion. She guided him through the store, patiently explaining the details of each product without showing any sign of impatience or judgment. David was pleasantly surprised by Mia's professional and respectful attitude. He realized that in this small suburban store, the customer service far exceeded his expectations, standing in stark contrast to his previous experience. Before leaving, David decided to ask Mia a question. "Do you always treat every customer this way?" Mia was taken aback by the question but answered with a smile. "That's what I always try to do. I believe that everyone who walks through these doors deserves respect, no matter what they look like or how much money they have. Fashion is meant to make people feel good, not to judge them." Mia's words deeply moved David. He left the store with a renewed determination. It was time for the entire company to embrace the values embodied by employees like Mia. After experiencing 2 stores with completely opposite attitudes, David spent the entire evening in his office, compiling and analyzing what he had observed. He meticulously recorded every detail in his journal: how Jack belittled and disrespected him, how Mia showed respect and enthusiasm in her service, and even the reactions of other customers around them. David realized that the issue wasn't just about individual employees, it was about the entire management system and company culture. He opened the HR and training reports, carefully reading through each line. The problems began to surface. Recruitment processes prioritized sales skills over core values. A lack of training focused on attitude and soft skills. Ineffective mechanisms for store oversight. David recognized that the rapid success of Carter's Lux had caused the company to lose sight of the values he had once championed. His brand was becoming the very thing he had always despised, a place that focused solely on appearances while neglecting human worth. David decided it was time for a major overhaul. A week after his experience at the store, David returned to the store where Jack worked, this time as himself. He didn't disguise himself. Instead, he arrived in a tailored suit, stepping out of a sleek luxury car, immediately drawing the attention of everyone around. As David walked into the store, Jack instantly recognized him. His face turned pale, and the smug smile he often wore vanished. The other employees whispered among themselves, standing upright as if trying to make a good impression. David said nothing at first. He walked to one of the displays, carefully examining the collections before asking to see the manager. Lisa, the store manager, quickly appeared, trying to maintain her composure in front of the company's CEO. "Mr. Carter, it's such an honor to have you visit our store," Lisa said nervously. David nodded. "I'm here today to speak with your staff." He requested all employees to gather together. Once they were assembled, David began to speak. "Last week, I visited this store in a different guise. No one recognized me, and that was intentional. I didn't want to be treated as the CEO. I wanted to be treated as a regular customer," David said, his tone calm yet commanding. Jack hung his head, fully aware that he was about to face the consequences of his actions. David continued, "The service I received from some people here left me deeply disappointed. You didn't just fail me. You failed the reputation of this brand. A brand I have built with my heart and soul." He turned to Jack, locking eyes with him. "Jack, do you have anything to say for yourself?" Jack stammered, struggling to find words. "Mr. Carter, I didn't know it was you. I'm sorry if I did anything wrong." David raised an eyebrow. "So if I weren't the CEO, you believe your behavior was acceptable?" The store fell into a heavy silence. David's words hung in the air, making the gravity of the situation unmistakably clear to everyone present. David didn't rush to punish Jack. Instead, he asked Jack to talk about himself, why he worked here, what he thought about his job, and his perspective on customers. Jack hesitated but eventually opened up. He talked about growing up in a wealthy family that later went bankrupt. He admitted that he often felt envious of people with money and had developed a habit of judging others based on appearances. Without seeing anything wrong with it, David listened carefully and nodded. "I understand your circumstances, Jack, but that does not excuse your actions. Your job is not to judge people. Your job is to make customers feel welcomed." He continued, "I'm willing to give you an opportunity to make things right, but this is not free forgiveness. I want you to undergo retraining, and I expect to see a significant change in your attitude. If you can't do that, I'm afraid we won't be able to work together any longer." Jack felt a mix of shame and relief at being given a second chance. He lowered his head and said sincerely, "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'll do my best to change." David then turned to the rest of the staff. "This is not just a lesson for Jack. This is a lesson for all of you. This brand does not simply sell clothing. It stands for the values of respect and inclusion. If you cannot understand that, there is no place for you on this team." After leaving the store, David felt a sense of relief. He knew this was only the first step in a long journey to rebuild the company's culture. But he also understood that true change begins with small, deliberate decisions like this. Since his encounter with David, Jack lived under a heavy cloud of reflection. His boss's words were not just a warning but a profound wake-up call that forced Jack to confront himself. In the days that followed, he began to recognize the flaws in his thinking and behavior. One evening, Jack sat alone in his small apartment, staring out the window, pondering his life. He recalled his younger days, when his family was wealthy and he was indulged with everything he desired. After the family went bankrupt, Jack grew bitter and resentful toward the world. He believed that judging others based on their appearances was a way to protect his own fragile self-esteem. But now, he realized that this mindset had turned him into a cold and callous person. Jack opened his laptop and started researching David Carter. He read about David's journey, From a poor boy struggling to make ends meet to the head of a global fashion empire, Jack felt ashamed, realizing that David had endured hardships far greater than anything he had ever experienced. The next morning, Jack arrived at the store earlier than usual. He approached Lisa, the store manager, and sincerely apologized for his behavior. "I was wrong. I want to change. Please give me a chance," Jack said earnestly. Lisa studied Jack for a moment before nodding. "I'll be watching you. If you truly want to change, prove it with your actions." While Jack was working to change himself, David focused on overhauling the entire management system of Carter's Luxe. He realized that employee training couldn't stop at sales techniques. It had to include a strong emphasis on human values. David convened the senior management team and tasked them with creating a new training program. This program would not only teach employees how to please customers, but also emphasize the importance of respect and inclusivity. "We're not just selling clothes. We're selling trust and confidence to our customers," David said during the meeting. "If our employees don't understand that, they can't be a part of this team." David also decided to host regular workshops where employees from different stores could share their insights and experiences. He believed that fostering an environment where everyone felt heard would help build a stronger corporate culture. Additionally, he introduced a new policy. Every employee was required to sign a commitment to the company's core values, which included non-discrimination and respect for all customers. Violations of this commitment would result in serious consequences. To ensure transparency, David established an independent oversight team to regularly inspect and evaluate the stores. He wanted to guarantee that every customer, regardless of who they were, would receive the highest level of service. Jack began attending the new training sessions organized by the company. Initially, he felt awkward relearning basic skills like greeting customers or handling difficult situations. But gradually, he started to understand the value of these changes. During one session, the instructor asked employees to share their most memorable experiences at work. When it was Jack's turn, he recounted the story of how he mistreated David, unaware that he was the company's CEO. He admitted that the incident had profoundly impacted him and that he was making every effort to correct his mistakes. His colleagues began to view him differently. Some who had previously disliked his arrogance started to sense the sincerity in his words and actions. Jack didn't stop at merely attending the training sessions. He also transformed the way he worked daily. He paid closer attention to each customer, listened to their needs, and served them with genuine care. On one occasion, he helped an elderly woman choose the perfect scarf for her wedding anniversary. She thanked him with a beaming smile, and for the first time, Jack felt true joy from his work. Lisa, the store manager, observed Jack's transformation and was pleased. One day, she called him into her office and said, "I've noticed how hard you've been working. I believe you have the potential to become an exceptional employee if you continue down this path." Jack thanked Lisa and promised to keep improving himself. While Jack was undergoing his transformation, David decided to revisit the store where Mia worked to personally thank her for her exceptional service. When he entered the store, he saw Mia assisting a family in selecting clothes for their son. She still carried the same warm smile and professional demeanor as the first time he had met her. After the family left, David approached Mia and said, "Hello, Mia. I'm David Carter." Mia looked at him for a moment, her eyes widening in surprise. "Mr. Carter? You're?" David nodded with a smile. "Yes, I'm the owner of Carter's Luxe. I wanted to thank you for the incredible job you're doing. Your dedication and respect reminded me of why I started this brand in the first place." Mia blushed, unsure of how to respond. "Thank you, sir. I'm just doing my job." David chuckled. "Yes, but you're doing it with your heart, and that truly makes a difference." He then invited Mia to join the company's training team as an inspiration to other employees. At first, Mia hesitated, but after hearing David explain the importance of spreading the company's values, she agreed. In the weeks that followed, Mia began participating in training workshops, sharing her story, and emphasizing the importance of respecting every customer. Her sincerity and passion quickly resonated with others, inspiring employees to adopt a similar approach. David realized that the transformation of his company wasn't just about implementing new policies, but also about empowering people like Mia, individuals who embodied and practiced the core values of Carter's Lux. While David was focused on reforming the company, another individual was preparing to embark on their own journey of change. Emily, the young woman who had witnessed the incident at the store where Jack worked, felt that the injustice David experienced could not be forgotten. Emily was a sociology major in college, deeply passionate about social justice. After leaving the store that day, she couldn't stop thinking about how Jack had treated David. She understood that discrimination based on appearances wasn't just a personal issue. It was a societal problem that needed to be addressed. Determined to take action, Emily wrote a detailed post on social media recounting the incident she had witnessed. Though she didn't disclose that the man subjected to the discrimination was David Carter, her post quickly went viral, garnering thousands of likes and shares. Many people commented, sharing similar experiences of bias and unfair treatment they had encountered in their own lives. It wasn't long before the post caught David's attention. He read every word, sensing the sincerity and urgency in Emily's message. Recognizing the importance of her voice, he decided to invite her to his office for a conversation. Emily was surprised and humbled that her post had reached someone as influential as David Carter. When she received his invitation, she felt both nervous and honored. During their meeting, David thanked Emily for speaking out in the name of fairness and justice. "Emily, what you've done is truly meaningful," David said. "I'd like to invite you to join a new initiative we're launching at the company, aimed at raising awareness about respect and equality in the business environment." Emily immediately agreed. She realized this was an opportunity to channel her passion into tangible action and contribute to real, meaningful change. The reforms implemented by David began to show tangible results. The new training programs, combined with the leadership of individuals like Mia and Emily, transformed the way Carter's Lux employees viewed their roles. Stores across the country reported growth not only in revenue but also in customer satisfaction. Positive feedback started pouring in on social media and review platforms. Customers praised the professional and friendly attitudes of the staff, helping the brand gradually reclaim its esteemed reputation. Jack, once a controversial figure, became an inspiring story within the company. Through persistence and determination, he evolved into one of the store's best employees. Jack not only improved himself but also supported his colleagues in enhancing their customer service skills. During a major press conference, David shared the journey of his company's transformation. He didn't shy away from acknowledging past mistakes but candidly addressed them, emphasizing the importance of learning from failure. "Carter's Lux is not just a fashion brand," he said. "It's a symbol of respect, inclusion, and trust. I believe we're not just creating clothes. We're fostering values that make life better." David's speech resonated deeply and went viral, attracting widespread attention from the media and the public. Many lauded him not only as a successful businessman but also as a responsible and visionary leader. With the success of his internal reforms, David decided to organize a global inspiration forum, a platform where people could share stories of perseverance, overcoming prejudice, and mutual respect. David invited those who had contributed to transforming the company, including Mia, Jack, and Emily. Together, they stood on stage to share their journeys. Mia spoke about how she found joy in serving customers and how she inspired her colleagues with positive values. Jack, with a steady and reflective voice, admitted his past mistakes and recounted the challenging yet meaningful process of personal transformation. Emily discussed the power of speaking up and how every individual can contribute to societal change. The forum was not just a space for storytelling but also for connection. The heartfelt narratives resonated deeply with the thousands in attendance, including employees, customers, and other business leaders. David closed the forum with a powerful message. We cannot change the world with words alone, but we can change one person's world with our actions. And if each of us can do that, together, we will make a profound difference. After the forum, David spent a quiet evening in his office, gazing out at the city illuminated by countless lights. He reflected on his journey from a poor boy to the leader of a global brand. While he felt satisfied with what he had accomplished, he also understood that his journey was far from over. David decided not to stop with Carter's Lux. He began planning a charitable foundation aimed at supporting young individuals with difficult circumstances but immense talent, people who reminded him of himself in his early years. Meanwhile, Carter's Lux continued to grow, not just in revenue but in the values it brought to communities. Mia became the director of training. Jack was promoted to store manager, and Emily took on the role of strategic advisor for social equity at the company. The story of David Carter was not just about a man who overcame prejudice and hardship to achieve success. It was also about how each individual can make a difference when they believe in the power of respect and compassion. As the story concluded, David wrote in his journal, "Success isn't just about what we achieve, it's about what we leave behind. If each day I can make the world a little better, then that is the true meaning of life."